It's a real pleasure to have with us here Rajiv Lall of IDFC. Thank you so much for being with us. What's the mood you're picking up here in Davos?
Well, much better than last year. I think there's a sense of relief around here that 2013 will be markedly better than 2012, primarily on account of improvement in the US and a staving off of any immediate problem in Europe.
In Europe. What about India and the India story? How hard is it to really sell the India story, and are foreign investors actually buying into it?
I think it's interesting. Last year there was a marked or distinct lack of interest in India. This year I sense it is more neutral. So from that low bar, which is disappointing, I think this year there is interest. It's not tremendously enthusiastic,
right?
But I think people are re-engaging with India.
But neutral isn't good news, clearly. We need much more because we've already seen a slowdown happen. There's a very limited window of opportunity really to bring back that interest also.
No, you have to understand that here there's a wide range. The community is very wide, right? So you have a lot of academics, you have policy makers,
right?
You have business people. You don't have as many market participants necessarily.
Right.
So the markets have been quite enthusiastic about India. We've seen that reflect in our indices.
You talked about it last year.
I did.
You actually did make that prediction.
I did. I'm quite pleased with myself for that. Thank you for reminding.
right. But now I have to ask you for your prediction for 2013. Do you see this bull run continuing? And do you think that there's over exuberance right now in equity markets?
I think there is over exuberance. I mean, the long and short of it is that markets are ahead of the reality. So there is improvement on various fronts, on the policy making front in particular in India, but we still have a long way to go, and I think markets are expecting a little bit too much too soon.
Let's talk about some of the policy announcements that have taken place, particularly to talk about the Cabinet Committee on Investments. How significant is that move, and do you see that having a huge upside?
That's too early to say. That was absolutely a necessary step. We're waiting to see if it's a sufficient step. It certainly has signaled the government's intention to look and work seriously at unblocking projects that have been languishing. I think all the anecdotal evidence through our clients and talking to people in government is that the wheels of government are turning.
Right.
So very difficult problems like imported coal and its pricing. Slowly consensus is building around how to handle that tricky problem. Other issues with respect to revision of tariffs, that is also happening slowly. 8 states have revised tariffs significantly. Is it enough? No. But from where we were last year, it's a huge improvement. So things are happening, but a lot more needs to be done for serious appetite to return for the development of new greenfield assets, particularly in infrastructure.
So
I think the biggest progress that has happened is really confidence that this government and this finance minister is serious about fiscal restraint. So that's a major plus. So there's an improvement in the macroeconomic outlook, if you like.
But then we still end up missing the fiscal deficit target quite a bit, and so even though there is fiscal restraint, the worries still remain.
I'm not sure that they will miss the fiscal target.
You hope that they'll be able to meet it.
I think he's certainly, our finance minister is signaling that he will pretty much meet the target, which is quite impressive. And I know for a fact he's been going about it like only he can, in a very, very systematic fashion.
Right.
But it's despite all the efforts that are made on that front, I don't think it is enough to change Indian entrepreneurs' appetite for risk just yet.
Okay, that's an important statement you're making, because you're saying that you're still Indian entrepreneurs will still be risk averse, and they will not be buying into the whole story till we actually see more execution.
Execution, facilitation of projects,
right.
cutting down red tape, solving the problem of fuel for infrastructure, for example.
Right.
All those sorts of issues, people need to see tangible evidence before they agree to put down more money.
Okay, you talked about infrastructure, and there particularly I'd like to talk about the Environment Ministry, and which was seen as one major issue, the fact that clearances are simply not coming through. Now, the Cabinet Committee on Investments will obviously be a significant step forward to at least resolve that aspect of it, but are there still concerns with regard to projects not taking off, largely due to some of those concerns that have been raised by the Environment Ministry and the road sector in particular?
It takes time. I mean, there's no magic bullet, no magic wand that is going to fix this overnight. After all, the bureaucratic, procedural bottlenecks that we managed to create over the years, you can't wish it away just overnight. The intent is clearly being signaled. Anecdotally, as I said, efforts are being made. We'll have to give it some time to see whether it has a real impact.
Okay, let me talk specifics now, and particular interest really on what's happening in the Delhi-Gurgaon Expressway. Do we see IDFC taking it over?
Well, not yet. I guess the news is trickling out into the market, so I should address this.
Right.
I should address this issue. There's no secret that there have been problems with the Delhi-Gurgaon Expressway.
Right.
That users have been dissatisfied, NHAI have been dissatisfied, Government of Haryana have been dissatisfied, and the lenders, of which we are one, are also concerned about the situation. So we've been engaging with the concessionaire as well with NHAI to sort out the problem. I am cautiously optimistic that in the next several weeks we will arrive at some kind of solution. I cannot tell you today what that solution will be.
But an obvious solution is that you take over. Isn't that one? And also, isn't it true that NHAI has asked you to do so?
No, that is not true. And we have to use the word takeover carefully.
Okay.
Because the takeover implies that we've been asked to substitute for the existing concessionaire, which by the terms of the concession agreement, legally speaking, is not possible.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying it requires a collaborative solution.
Okay.
Which will be a negotiated settlement to arrive at a formulation that will give comfort to the lenders, hopefully stabilize the management of the expressway, and by NHAI's full collaboration and cooperation.
Given your exposure to the project, what's the ideal solution?
Ideal solution?
Right.
Ideal solution is that the debt be serviced.
Right. I didn't mean it in that way. Given the scenario right now.
And the debt will be serviced.
Right.
The debt will be serviced.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
because there's enough traffic.
Right.
It's really a management issue. Let me put that way.
Okay.
And so we'll get it sorted out.
And it's a project that does excite you in terms of giving your full commitment to it, in terms of really. As I said, takeover, you're saying, is legally not possible. Right. You have significant exposure here, right. But working out the whole legal solution, it is something that you would.
We have to do.
Yeah, you have to do.
We have to solve a problem.
And
there's a
what
problem.
Are the numbers we're talking about? 1,200 crores is here.
No. Our exposure is less than 500.
Okay, that's the total.
Yeah. But it's So I'm not concerned that the debt will not be serviced. I'm concerned and focused on finding a workable solution. So it's impolitic to talk about it prematurely. When we arrive at something, we will discuss it.
Okay, fair enough. Right. But we've got a sense of the fact that a solution is being worked out, and there are proposals on the table. Really, moving forward to talk about what needs to be done, also in terms of unlocking the entire potential in the infrastructure sector. You talked about fuel linkages. We've talked about the Cabinet Committee on Investments. We've seen some tough decisions out of the way, at least in terms of changing the sentiment. Do you see more tough decisions coming in? What is it that you'd like the government to do?
I mean, the biggest and most important issue that needs to be sorted out as far as infrastructure is concerned is really making fuel available as soon as possible. That's not as easy as it sounds. It's not just about mining coal and making it magically available. It has contractual implications because for the time that you're not able to mine the coal, and for the time that Coal India is not able to meet its obligations under fuel supply contracts and arrangements it had made with developers of power projects, these people will be forced to import coal.
Right.
So then there is a whole set
Tariff
of questions
issue.
about how is that coal to be priced?
Right.
Is the price going to be passed through? If it is going to be passed through, who bears the burden of that? Does the ultimate consumer bear the burden? Does the state electricity board bear the burden? There are many stakeholders involved in this, and there are complex legal agreements.
Sure.
So just like we are trying to find a solution on Delhi-Gurgaon
Expressway,
it requires a pragmatic frame of mind for the stakeholders to come together and find a solution. So I think that the CERC are playing an arbitrating role in this, which could be very valuable. I think that the courts are also going to get involved. For better or for worse in our system today, it's easier to have any arrangement blessed by the court.
Right.
And nobody can point fingers. But that takes time.
Right.
I think we are slowly moving in that direction as far as this whole mess with regard to imported coal is concerned.
You talked about fuel, but what about NHAI and what about the road sector issues there, the bidding structures?
So everybody is learning. I think the NHAI has learned and the Ministry of Transportation have learned that the bids may have been aggressive, but on the flip side of it, road stretches weren't, or land wasn't acquired in a timely fashion, partly because of environmental issues, other approvals.
The land acquisition bill being a game changer?
It will definitely make life harder, and what all this will mean, which is why I've been somewhat guarded about how quickly investment in infrastructure will return. All of these kinds of things, right, means that people will be necessarily more cautious.
Right.
First, it will take time to come to a solution. Even if we find a solution, investors, developers, and financiers will all be more cautious.
Right.
And that means that it'll be a slow but hopefully steady return back to traction.
All right, we do hope that the slow and steady return back to traction isn't all that slow, but steady for sure.
I hope so too.
All right.
Thank
you so much. Pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.